Hey y'all, it's Laura. Come back to another Cocoa Vanilla Studio video. This time we are playing with some frames from the Heart and Home collection. And these are some photos that are left over from Thanksgiving, so I decided to do a second layout of my Thanksgiving photos just to make sure that everybody made it onto the page. And so what I've done off camera is to go ahead and cut down one of the 12 by 12 pieces of paper into a triangle. So I've just cut it right down the center. As you're going to see when I put it onto this navy cardstock, I just cut it right from corner to corner. And I used a long ruler and a pencil and then just use my scissors to cut it because my paper cutter is just a simple 12 by 16 paper cutter. It doesn't really cut that direction very long. Like that's longer than 12 inches from corner to corner. Much like your TV is larger by the diagonal size rather than the horizontal size. And that is something that you have to get a little bit creative with if you want to try this sort of diagonal design. But I really wanted to stagger these photos. These photos, there's actually 4 photos in 3 frames, and I have cut them down to fit inside, but I did that off camera because it's a bit fiddly and fussy, and I had to reprint 2 of the photos to make sure they would fit inside of the frames, so I just decided to go ahead and do that ahead of time. Now I'm going to go ahead and scatter these beautiful florals all around my page. Now this came together very, very quickly because as you can see, it's a very simple design. The key is the details, and that with any sort of floral explosion, which this becomes very quickly, you have to focus on those details, the shapes that you're creating, the leaves that you're including, the colors and where you're positioning them, and then finishing it off with some little tiny bits and pieces around the outside of that floral explosion to give it just a little bit more oomph, a little bit more finesse, finished look to it. And that's what we're going for. Now I am mixing up the vellum flowers with the cardstock ephemera ones so that I can get a mix of that kind of softer feel of the vellum and the more substantial cardstock pieces both on the page. One of the things I'm also doing is I'm putting more of the vellum ones on the pattern paper side of the triangles. So the rich, dark cardstock is going to pretty well dull out those vellum pieces, and so I really put most of them up on the pattern paper side, and then I focused more of the cardstock ephemera on the bottom. And this way they kind of have a pretty similar balance top to bottom because we've got that white background behind the vellum pieces, which helps them pop out, helps those colors stand out a little bit more than they would on a darker color. And I am mixing them up just a little bit so that you get some of those same vibrant colors throughout the page and up and down that diagonal. My title is from the ephemera pack as well, and it just says Our Family, and I have added that in to the diagonal design in between my photo frames. This was a really quick and easy layout to make, but it is one that has a big punch. All of those florals and all of my photos just lined up like that have a great presence on this page. And so you don't have to have a very difficult or fancy or time-consuming background in order to have a page that really has presence and gravitas within your album. Because I know that a lot of my layouts look very simple when I start them, but if you really are looking at it in person or even in the close-up photos, you can see all of the tiny little details that make such a huge difference in the overall finished design. And I think that that is where my personal style shines. I'm not the best at mixed media backgrounds. I'm not the best at really complicated patterns in the background, but I can give those details and I have an eye for those things. And so that is what I lean into, is those little details. And I think that it's important for us to, as artists, as creatives, to lean into our strengths. And we should always, I think, be pushing ourselves and experimenting and trying new things, but don't necessarily abandon what you know. Don't abandon the things that you're good at in favor of those things. Kind of try to incorporate both. Try new things and also add in the things that make you feel confident because that is going to show in your finished layout. You are going to be able to tell that you were happy with how it turned out. Otherwise, you're going to be staring at that layout and trying to fix it forever. Or you'll give up and hide it in the album and hope nobody notices. I have done both of those things many times before. But yes, for this design, I really wanted to go with something simple, but something that really popped. And this worked out quite well. I've got 4 photos onto the page. We have a nice linear design, but it is the opposite of the page that will be in front of it. So the other side of this, the Thanksgiving page, was a modified grid. So it had a lot of squared off edges. And I thought, what can I do to add more fluidity to this 2 pages? And going on an opposite direction definitely helps. So you've got the rigidity of the grid layout and then this fluid diagonal layout with all of these florals, and it helps to kind of soften the overall effect of the 2 layouts side by side. Now, to create some cohesion between these 2 sides, the 2 triangles of sides, I have covered, of course, that seam in between. So if you're not the perfect cutter, which I am not, you can cover up those minor discrepancies where your scissors may have traveled off of the line on its own, through no fault of your own. And also you can do things like add little borders. So what I did to make sure this border stood out is I used my white gel pen on the cardstock side, and I used a black gel pen on the print pattern paper. And that way that line, that border will stand out on both pieces of paper. But I will say that my white gel pen was not wanting to work. We had to coerce that one to behave a little bit. Now, coming in with some finishing touches, I am going to do some scattering and splattering. Now, what I did for my scattering with this one is I used these little butterflies that I had fussy cut from the A5 paper stack in the Heart and Home collection. And then I also had some teeny tiny little flowers that I had fussy cut also from the A5 paper stack. And I'm going to add those around the outside of my lovely clusters of florals. And for the butterflies, I will of course add little trails behind them to give a little bit feeling of movement on the page as well. I don't really like heavy stagnant designs. I like to guide the eye through my layouts, and so I will quite often use butterfly trails or rounded corners to kind of lead your eye from one element to another. That's another little tip for you if you have some trouble with that. And to finish this one off, we'll do some splattering. And I do my splattering in 2 levels. I use the Gold Nouveau for the controlled splatter, adding little dots all around the outside of my clusters, and also to do the butterfly trails. And then I come in with some gold ink spray to do some uncontrolled splatter. And I find that gold ink spray in particular pops beautifully on a dark background. And so I was very excited to use it on this layout because this navy makes this gold pop gorgeously. It just absolutely glows off of the navy side of this layout. Oh, I forgot I added these little hearts. So these lovely little puffy hearts are also in the Heart and Home collection. And I added 3 of those, one at the top, one at the bottom, and one in the middle. So pretty close to my photos to help draw your eye to those items as the most important part of the page. And because they are on all 3 photos, it helps to create more continuity as well. Finishing this layout up, I hope you check out the lovely Cocoa Vanilla blog to see all of the other inspiration and more photos. If you'd like to see more details of this layout, that is cocoavanilla.com.au. The ladies over there have a ton of inspiration to share with you. That's about it, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, bye, y'all.